Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pieros of Tri-City Equity Group. Today, we have Rick Coughlin on the show. Rick is a versatile professional with over 25 years of experience in education, administrative leadership, sales, and enterprise technology, integration. And he's also an active short-term rental operator. Rick's journey began as a co-founder and chief vision officer, which I really like, of Grove Studios. It's a 24/7 self-service creative studio startup. So we're definitely going to dive in a little bit of that because I actually want to know more about that. I think that's pretty cool. He's got a vision for scaling music, audio, visual production studios globally using this architecture that design that they've got going with this innovative architecture firm, 3 Squared, which I know he's got some projects that he's working on here. So we're gonna dive a little bit into that here in a minute too. But definitely excited to have Rick on the show. Rick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Steve, I appreciate you having me. Whenever I listen back to my, bio information, I think I have my fingers in a lot of things. And, my whole professional career, really, it did start out in education. But I had these things bubbling in the background all throughout that. And, that's the thing that's kind of driven my journey. I tend to be somebody that's probably a little bit more conservative when it comes to the daily dollars, which is, where I found myself early on. But always had this nagging sort of like thing that I wanted to do within real estate. And a lot of that grew out of, my background growing up and what I saw my parents do and my grandparents. And they dabbled in real estate a little bit, nothing at a high level, but mostly out of need to help raise a family. And so my folks did rentals growing up. They still do. Not a huge portfolio by any means, but we still even own 40 acres out in Colorado that we're actually putting on the market right now. We're going to 1031 that into a property that cash flows, but they kind of sat on that property and realized with a little bit of my cajoling that we need to do something with that money rather than let it sit there. So, it's been a thread throughout my life. And then most recently, probably in the last 7 or 8 years, I've dived into quite a bit more, including short-term rentals. So it's always interesting to hear the bio back at you after it's been sent out there.
Well, and I know that's even just a fraction. I know you've got a lot of experience. You got a lot of plates spinning. Wear a number of different hats. So, obviously you got some exposure through your family kind of early on. But I guess what was the catalyst that kind of took you out of these different, maybe business roles and kind of spurred the interest, let's say, into real estate or, developing other streams of income? Because there's usually what I found is, for a lot of people, it's usually something in particular, right? Like something that caught your eye, caught your attention to say, you know what, yeah, I've got this business success or I've got this income coming in. I need to now transition into, hard assets or, additional streams of income or, did you have something along the lines of that, like where, okay, well, hey, yeah, this is interesting. Maybe I should look more into it.
Yeah. So it's interesting how my different, what might seem disparate threads sort of came together. I've also been a semi-professional musician for the bulk of my life. I can't ever remember not doing that. And some of these things sort of converged. What I saw out there in the landscape was a lot of commercial real estate that would sort of get repurposed for sort of a lack of a better term, like makeshift kind of rehearsal studios for artists, bands, and that sort of thing. And I just never saw it really executed very well. A lot of these spaces would fail within a few years and leave an entire community of artists sort of scrambling to figure out where they were going to have a space to do their next thing. And as a musician, I recognized the problem, buddied up with some people, my co-founders who are in many ways smarter than me in areas that I'm not. And we decided that we were gonna do something for the community at large. Southeast Michigan is where we're at. We're kind of in the Metro Detroit area, so lots of creative juices around here, but not a lot of placemaking. And we just said we know we can do it better. Right around the same time, I started becoming more aware of Airbnb. I started staying in them with my family. I started recognizing some of the technologies involved and how people were managing those properties. Wi-Fi enabled locks came online, and I thought, this is great. With my technology background, I recognized a lot of the technologies, and I've just figured out that we can use these sort of management tools to operate a leaner business model that we could provide artists and creatives a nice space, one that's safe, clean, inspiring to be at, and we could leverage all of that in that service side to the artist, backlining the equipment so they don't have to bring everything in, really like sort of cleaning up that business. And then as I'm going through the process, I realize I'm doing a short-term rental for creatives. It's a co-working space. It operates. We're not on site, so everything's managed remotely. We have a team that goes in and cleans just like you would in a short-term rental. All of the same tools, a lot of the same systems and processes. So we built that business. It's a single location, but we call it a startup because we know that we can scale it into cities of 500,000 or more. That's really our sweet spot for urban density in that business. And so I've got that operating. I've got a couple business partners there. We have a team that's operating that facility. But I still always have this nagging, gosh, I really love short-term rentals. I love the creative behind it. I love unique stays. I love the power of that in the industry. And at some point, my brother-in-law knew that I was into all of this, and he approached me and said, "Hey, I'm buying a condo in Tucson. I don't really have the time to manage everything, but I know that you're good at the back end and the tech and all of those things. Do you want to help me with it?" And it was like an easy yes, right? Because it was an in for me at a low risk level, right? It's his real estate. I don't have equity, but I take it very seriously, right? I want it to do well. And so I got on board. I did everything for him pretty much, including advising him on decor. I think he did a pretty good job overall. And we got it up and running, and within the first month, our first guest was a $17,000 guest.
Yeah.
And
that works.
Absolutely, right? I mean, that effectively paid for the mortgage, and then everything, for the year, and then everything after that was sort of gravy. And it, we're learning a lot about seasonality in Tucson. But I do it all remotely from Southeast Michigan. A little team that handles things out there, handyman, your cleaners or your people. They catch everything first, and it's really going great. So we're looking for more opportunities to grow that, from a single location.
No, that's awesome. So kind of what I'm hearing there is that, you're leveraging, let's say, your experience, your confidence, really operating in a really a different segment, right? Because, you've been used to catering to, creatives, to artists, to, other people kind of on that side of the business, which is a totally different spectrum. I don't feel like most real estate people are operating in that space, but you identified, like, let's say, a need. Right.
Yeah.
There's kind of a hole in the market to be able to provide this additional experience. I actually think that's cool, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, like as you were sharing about the space there in Detroit. because you yourself are an artist and you kind of
Yep.
understand how what it's like. Okay, well, we're coming into the
Yeah.
space. I've got to set up our equipment, like these are the things that we need. And I get that most people would have, okay, well, I have some specific stuff that I like, but I can probably just go ahead and operate it. If it's high level equipment, cool. I know how to plug in. I know how to, set up, and we're going to work with this thing, and we're going to rock, we're going to jam out, right? So I like that you have that experience enough in a different segment, in a completely different market or different field, really, to go and identify, okay, no, we can provide something here that's scalable for one, because you don't have to just have it there,
Yeah.
right? Like this is something, the idea is to take it to other markets. But then you're
Exactly.
able to provide a great value, um, service and need within that niche, to go and, okay, well, hey, you don't have to bring all your stuff. We're gonna make this real nice and easy. We've got the venue. Cool. Just come in, you can do your thing. And, you pay a little bit of a premium for that, but, come and use the space. Um,
Yeah.
so I like that. And I think probably too often people are like, well, they don't necessarily make that connection where it's like, well, I have this skill in this other business or this other field, right? I think a lot of people were just like, okay, well, hey, I make money here over here, doing my engineering job or whatever it is, right? Like it's,
Mhm.
IT or whatever. And then there's never a connection point where it's like, well, gosh, is there anything that I can do to kind of maybe create something new or fill a hole in the market? And then, you kind of put those creative juices to work to say, hey, no, we can do this. And this is because I do see more of that coming available now, right? We have a lot of space, like let's say retail space, or, there's a lot of opportunity out there for people that have a vision to be able to see it, right? I feel like there's a lot of real estate out there that could potentially be had, likely at a discount. I'm talking about commercial space,
Absolutely.
underutilized, especially kind of this post-COVID world that we're in, where there's just not as much brick and mortar anymore. But hey, you know what? That provides a space for new ventures to come in, new opportunities to come in. So
Yeah.
we need some chief vision officers like you.
Yeah. I do. I think that's like one of my superpowers is that I see what might be seemingly like disparate ideas and I bring them together in my own crazy way. But I recognize the real estate opportunity. It's like if you're a real estate investor and that's your thing, you want cash, you want a business that's stable, that serves a need in the community, that's going to be there for a long time, right? Um, and so I felt like there was an opportunity to build that business because I saw the need. I saw this gap in the marketplace, right? You can go to a professional recording studio, right? And typically pay north of $65 an hour. That's a very specific thing. What we've done is um, it's people that might be preparing to go to a studio and pay 65 to $75 an hour, but they need to prepare, and they need to prepare in an environment that's not a garage, not a basement. It's more professionally appointed. It's going to sound better. It's going to feel better. All those things are important to musicians, and not just musicians. We've got there's layers within that musician category. So we have 5 studios in our space. So we have 2 live band rooms, a podcast studio, a DJ studio, and a small production studio, which tends to get used by a lot of singer songwriters and hip hop artists. So each of the rooms purposed a little bit differently. And currently it's a space that we lease, but our business model moving forward is the idea of acquiring the real estate, um, using potentially even partnerships or syndications to bring real estate investors together, um, and then putting this service-based business in those probably underutilized spaces. Somebody told me a statistic about the use of office space right now. Obviously, post COVID, that's gone down quite a bit. So we have the flexibility with our partnership with 3 Squared, which is a design, architecture design firm that's done a lot of projects with shipping containers. They can do anything really, but that's been their niche. And we did design and engineer what we call a grove pod, which is two 20-foot high cube shipping containers that you put together, and you get 320 square feet of space. People ask me, well, yeah, hey, that sounds really cool, but like, why shipping containers? And the other problem, aside from crappy spaces that musicians and other artists have been sort of relegated to for decades, is sound isolation. If you're in the same building, let's say you've got a bluegrass band and you do 4-part harmonies. Well, the metal band next door is about to ramp up, and your rehearsal is going to be over if it's not sound isolated well enough. So the shipping container piece allows you to have multiple individual studios next to each other. They're really flexible. They can be inside an old warehouse building. They can be outside. They can, there's different ways that you can design those spaces to make that happen. And they're cost effective, especially at scale. So all of that to say, right, bringing in some of these disparate ideas, but it just makes sense. And our single location was our MVP. We had to test it out in a market. It's a smaller market here. We're not quite at 500,000. We're just outside of the metro area by like 5 miles, because we know most of our clientele come from a 25-mile radius. So that's why it makes sense to do another location in Detroit, so we can have those concurrent radius of urban density involved. Detroit's another market, and then you've got, north of the city and east of the city and all of that, those suburbs out there where creative people live, and they don't necessarily have the space or the budget to do it in their own homes or their basements or whatever. They don't want to bring their own clientele. If you're a recording engineer or an artist, you want a professional space to work out of. And it's a little like a co-working space as well in that sense. It's just, it looks different, right? Instead of like desks and computers and breakout rooms, they're studios and professionally appointed for creatives to do their work.
Oh, that's awesome. And like I said, it's an awesome repurposing, let's say, of underutilized or unutilized space, right? I think we're going to see, like I said, more and more of it.
Yeah.
So a couple of,
We're literally in a converted office space. We had to do some special things like solid core doors and sound treatments and things like that. But otherwise, yeah, it was underutilized office space. And, the property management company is very happy about that. We're great tenants, and, we have our own set of rules and regulations around what you can and can't do in the studios. And our clientele, when they find a great space, like people take care of it. It's a community feel and effort, and that's part of our brand. Grove Studios is literally where you grow things. It's like an orange grove or a place to grow. So that's part of it, and our clientele are really good stewards of the space. It's not staffed, so our clients show up, they book online, they show up at their time, they go in, they do their thing, and they leave when they're done. And we have team coming in throughout the day to check the equipment and just make sure everything's in working order and clean and sanitized. So it's a little like a well-oiled machine in that way, but it has these parallels in short-term rentals by the way we operate anyway, with automations and tech-enabled types of technologies that you can operate a space with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely see, all of the parallels and how you can use the same systems and same modes. I mean, because effectively what you're doing is arbitrage, right? So you're arbitraging somebody else's owned space, right, to its, I don't want to say its highest and best, but potentially highest and best use in that specific market. And you're providing value to this kind of niche audience. But I know for sure, like within the creative space, like you mentioned, it's a kind of a co-working kind of facility. That's a huge like word of mouth kind of thing where it's like, okay, well, what do where do you guys record? Well, hell, come check out, the space over here, right? Like, this is where we've been
Yeah.
going. Like, that's the kind of space that's going to spread, word of mouth, pretty easily. And I can see that like happening pretty quickly. So, I mean, so you guys that are, some of our listeners are maybe thinking, all right, well, gosh, I don't have the money to go buy okay, well, you don't have to, can you do a lease, or can you partner with somebody who's doing a lease, right? Like, I'm sure you're partnered with capital partners and people who you guys can do the creative side. You see it, right? You have the vision to be able to kind of, we need to bring value here, right? There's an opportunity here. And then you go partner with somebody who has the capital to do it. And then you guys can go seek out construction or somebody who can kind of carry out the vision. And again, it's just pieces of the puzzle. And I think a lot of our listeners are business minded. That's a lot of what we do is, business ventures, but, really hyper real estate focused. So, this is where you kind of create, put some of those creative juices to work, you guys, and look for, potential opportunities wherever you're at. Because Rick's in Michigan. Well, there's a lot of other places out there that could potentially use some of this kind of space, and you jump in the right market, you're in the path of progress, or you're looking for holes in the market. And right now, that may be an awesome opportunity with as much underutilized real estate out there. Especially as we look at this office space and retail space, it's just not it's not being filled right now. There's a lot of potential in those markets. So, very cool. And then that's awesome about your Tucson. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a massive. But that must be a great listing. Is it like a luxury kind of experience? Did you bring in some of the the music design into that, or?
It's really more, my brother-in-law had the vision of making it really feel like Arizona, and so
Mhm.
and really dig into so it's a bit more Arizona Tucson kind of thematically. But it's really simple, actually. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, but it's in a great development, lots of amenities for our guests, great pools and hot tubs. And there's you can walk out right back of the property and go for a hike in the Catalina foothills. So it's just the views from the back patio are spectacular. And you know lots of great reviews so far. People really like the space. It suits their needs. Long term, I'd like to see more, unique stays. Having experience with an architecture firm that does really unique architecture, both on the side of using shipping containers and cargo architecture, and then we have another steel frame type product that's really aimed at cost conscious developers that want to do something unique, but also want a really high quality type of construction. It's somewhat modular in nature, but it's not fully modular. So it's an interesting construction type. It's remarkable. It's been under development for years, and we've got some projects breaking ground this summer. So on my end, in my future vision of the short-term rental business is really about new construction and blank land to take advantage of those unique stays. And you get that with a certain type of architecture. So if you can't tell already, like, the creative side of me is probably what drives me the most. That's what I get most animated. Obviously, there are a lot of nuts and bolts in all of this stuff. But I am very self-aware of where my skills lack, and I am perfectly happy to have partnerships with people who have those skill sets, and we can, really become a superpower together for the shared goals that we have.
Yeah.
It was the same way with Grove Studios and that business. It's all about getting the right people in the room that see the opportunity and making things happen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think too many times people get trapped in the thought process of, well, I have to be great at everything, or I want to go and do it by myself. I do a
Yeah.
ton of networking. I go to a lot of conferences. I meet a lot of investors, and I feel like I always see this to newer and in newer investors rather. They're just like, well, I want to be able to see and touch it, and I want to kind of do it all, and they don't want to. I don't know if it's they just don't want to relinquish some control, or they just feel like they have to do it all, like, or else it's just kind of not a worthy venture. And I'm like, the only people that I see doing like large scale or having great reach, it's a total team sport. You have to get other people involved to be self-aware, and just like how you're saying, look, I know what I'm great at, and I know what is a weakness for me. It's kind of a low plank for me. Let me go partner with somebody or hire that out, because there's no sense in me focusing on that, knowing I'm only ever going to be maybe at best like just kind of at a passable level there. Let's go partner with somebody who that's their strong suit, and then we can you can run together, focusing on your strengths and their strengths, and you can go so much further. But yeah, I feel like the people that are experienced in business, they are fully aware of that and embrace that, and you'll go so much further doing that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely great.
I couldn't agree more. Some of it I think grows out of my experience, even as a creative, and in music.
Hmm.
I've never been a solo artist, and
Yeah.
the things that I'm most proud of musically required a group of people, right? A group of great musicians, a recording engineer, somebody to do the mastering, somebody to do the artwork. Now, some people can take on a lot of that themselves. They
Sure.
get really burned out. Um, so for me, it's the same way in business. I really, really firmly believe that. And, you know, I play nice with others. I like to collaborate. I like people. I genuinely like people. And for me, it's like, it's all about great relationships, and then making smart decisions together. So that's what drives, my fuel, in anything that I do. It's really about that.
All right, that's the secret. That's the secret sauce, you guys. Like people, you got to definitely you
Really?
got to play
Okay.
like you got to play nice with others. That's definitely
Yeah.
always
Yeah, we
beneficial.
learned that we learned that in kindergarten, I think, and I somehow
It
sometimes
stuck
people
with you.
forget that. It's um, if we have shared goals, then let's go, let's do it.
Right.
I'm in favor of things that move things forward. I'm in favor of taking action.
Oh, that's always going to be beneficial. See, those things right there. Hey, play nice with others. Work to each other's strengths. Go take action. Boom. That's a recipe for
Yeah,
success right there.
I think
Well,
so.
yeah, absolutely. No, it is. Well, Rick, did you have any other like any project? I mean, it sounds like you guys got a number of things going on, obviously, right now. Is there anything that's you guys have anything exciting coming up, like that's kind of more immediate, or
Yeah, in fact, there's a large project being worked on. So I mentioned before that I'm a development associate with Three Squared Inc. out of Detroit. It's a innovative architecture firm. I actually came to start consulting and working with that team because of my work with Grove Studios. This is where worlds are colliding. Um, but I in working on our Grove Studios, our Grove Pod container project for the design engineering, my business partner in Grove Studios is actually Three Squared's lead architect and director of design. And so in our work with developing our project, I got to know the team, and I got excited about some of what they were working on, and the time was right for me to be able to lend a hand in what they were working on, and it's really supporting us both through this project we're working on at Three Squared, and Grove Studios gets to be a part of it. It's a $67 million project slated for Detroit. It's called the Cochrane Commons. It's mixed use, multifamily, and some there's a tap room restaurant component to it. There's a music venue component to it, and of course our what we'll kind of call our flagship studio environment for Grove Studios, located in North Corktown in Detroit, which is one of the most upcoming neighborhoods in Detroit. It's actually right across the freeway from the old Tigers Stadium. And Ford Motor Company has purchased and renovated an old train station. You can Google it if you want. They're going to be locating their tech team and their entire like mobility folks. That whole area of North Corktown and Corktown is really just blowing up right now. There's multiple, there's a hotel going up right now. There's a um, pretty large multifamily development going up. It's really growing, and it's exciting for Detroit because Detroit did have some hard times. Still, there's still challenges like any city.
Sure.
But that project has gone through the PPR with the city. The city actually at one point said, "Can you make it bigger?" And so it's growing, and that's looking like it's going to break ground in maybe Q1, Q2 of next year. Seeking qualified investors, of course, and partnerships as that process takes place, but I'm just excited about it, obviously, for Grove Studios part in it, but I'm excited for the city. I love Detroit, and I spent a lot of time there, so it's a very cool project, and it's a hybrid construction type, so it does have a lot of shipping containers involved. Both for that's the next kind of big thing where a lot of my worlds are colliding, so I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you're bringing in like all of these kind of multiple facets of what you guys are already doing or have experience in, and being able to incorporate it into this awesome project. And I love that too. I love that you feel like, man, you know what, I can bring value to the city. I care about the city. We want to see it do well. We know that this is going to be a benefit to the residents, and that's awesome. It's awesome that you can feel good about the business, knowing that you're delivering a product that's actually beneficial to the local community. That's got to be like satisfying. It's got to be fulfilling.
I think it's part of my core values. Like I never want to sell something or sell anybody on anything that I don't personally believe in. I've been that way my entire life, even prior to my education career when I worked in music retail, right? I'm not going to sell something to somebody that I don't think that they need, or it's overkill. Just won't do it. But I just believe that there's an integrity piece there, and I like to sleep at night, so it makes it simple for me.
Well, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it's like it kind of gives credence, I guess, to that saying, right, of making an honest dollar, right, like an honest buck. It's like, no, yeah, but we're legitimately putting value in it. I know I can feel confident and good about the product that we've put out there. It's going to benefit everybody involved, and you didn't get oversold. You didn't deliver on a product that wasn't beneficial. You can feel good about it. It's a great benefit. So I love that. I think that's actually really good. So if anybody's out there and interested in connecting with Rick or learning more about it, because I actually think it sounds like a really cool project. I've seen something not even similar, but just something done that sounds like it's got a little fraction of that done in a different market, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome, once it's all kind of said and done. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the project, just reach out to Rick. We'll make sure to get his contact information, in the show notes and whatnot.
And I'm on pretty much all the socials. It's just I am Rick Coughlin. Anywhere, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, dabbling in TikTok, just mostly, an interesting place. I actually met some really cool people there doing some awesome stuff. So it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. But
I'm sure as a creative, I'm sure like there's just like, okay, what are the kids doing these days? But I mean, again, any way you can incorporate creative talents, whether it be through music and through dance and all that kind of stuff. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of that right now in that space, just with the demographic and whatnot.
And they've released this, that now there's TikTok Live, and I'm seeing a lot of business folks utilize that to their benefit and really like educating people on the platform. which I like. Our director of design over at 3 Squared started a TikTok channel. Brett Crandall is his name. If you want to see cargo architecture in action,
Mhm.
look him up on TikTok. I mean, he's got a pretty significant following there. And so, lots of video content. You want to see what it looks like for, a shipping container home being built. There's a lot of sort of eye candy that you can see just to see what logistics look like. And it's very cool. Likewise, like, 3 Squared has an Instagram following, over 100,000, and a lot of video content, a lot of reels. It's a great way to share with people what you're working on. Same thing with Grove Studios. It's I think education based marketing is really key. I think coming from an education background, like, people don't always know what they don't know. There's a lot of misconceptions about what cargo architecture is and what it isn't. And so, you have to dispel some myths, because there are a lot, but tons of benefits to it. And my favorite is what I always share with people is that you build something in a fraction of the time. A single family home can be framed with containers in less than a day. They make a ton of sense for multifamily and in mixed use construction at scale. I mean, logistically, you can install 15 containers in a day, right? And really move a project faster. So I like that. I like
That's cool.
upcycling, interrupting a waste stream. These containers keep coming from overseas, and they don't usually leave again. So it's good to repurpose them for something.
Oh, that's awesome. Again, providing value, seeing an opportunity where, I know people have gotten into that space for a while now. I've looked into shipping container pools and like different stuff like to
Yeah.
try and
Yeah.
incorporate into properties. I've seen some awesome
Yeah.
shipping container short-term rentals and that kind of stuff. So I've definitely looked into it. So I know, I feel like there's like a niche kind of,
Yeah.
market for like, let's say the investors, but I haven't really heard of too many people using it, let's say for multifamily or something that's like, all right, well, no, we're going to, do a project that's beneficial, let's say to housing
Yeah.
at scale, right?
Yeah.
Using the shipping containers, which is pretty cool.
And that's the sweet spot for containers is multifamily. If you're just doing a single family home, it's going to cost about the same as any other construction type, but I think there's some still added benefits to it. Um, and then, of course, the other construction type, which is uh, 3 Squared and has partnered with Home. It's HOUM.
Mm-hmm.
It's a steel framed product, but it takes advantage of infrastructure that's already there in terms of digital fabrication, to basically reduce site labor, by having things, you know, fabricated off site and delivered. It's just the same. It's very similar to what you do with containers. You fabricate and modify them off site and then deliver and install. So the idea is to streamline the process, lower on-site labor costs, and build something that is going to stand the test of time. There's some misconceptions about whether containers can stand the test of time. A lot of people don't know that they're made out of Core 10 steel and they cannot rust through. They can only surface rust. So really, as long as they're painted and maintained or clad with something, there's a lot you can do with both. So yeah, containers, super energy efficient too. Not a lot of air gaps. They're literally wind and water tight boxes. And the other steel frame product is very similar in that I just see it's superior construction type. And we have to look at new things. We've been doing construction, the same way
Right.
for a long time, and we have to create efficiencies because of cost.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially the last few years of the building materials and, labor and materials is just through the roof. So yeah, no, that's great. And like I said, this is where having like that, like somebody who's willing to, for for lack of a better term, no pun intended, like think outside of the box, right? Like
Right. We laugh about that all the time. It's like, well, actually, we're thinking inside the
in the
box, but yeah, inside and outside the box.
But again, this is where, hey, you need people on your team who are creatives who can, see a vision. I mean, hey, I don't have to be stuck thinking and doing only this same mode of operation. I get it. There's definitely, people out there that would say, hey, don't, no, we don't have to recreate the wheel here. But sometimes, you know what, you can design something that is maybe not recreating the wheel, but we're just going to merge these two concepts together and provide something that's a unique product that's new to the marketplace, right? That's what we need. This is who we are as people, right? So, well, I mean, I feel like we could learn a ton more about about like these different things, and I know you're passionate about it too, so I can tell. But this is the point of the show where we kind of transition to our fire round, which is just a little bit more kind of straightforward, just brief answer Q&A. Is that something you game for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, what's your best book recommendation other than Rich Dad Poor Dad? I know it's a real estate Bible for most
I know,
everybody
right?
that listens.
Of course, I've read that.
Right.
This Traction
Mm-hmm.
by Gino Wickman is one that I keep it next to me. Refer back to things a lot. That's been super helpful in building what I've built so far. And this is a new one to me. And it's honestly one of the most interesting. It's a really good marketing book that I picked up called Sell Like Crazy, and the machine that Sabri Subi has built. He's Australian. King Kong is the name of his marketing agency, but he gives this book out for free, and I'm like a quarter of the way through it, and it's just a really conversational tone. But what hooked me was the Facebook ads are just hysterical. I mean, they're just like, I was like, if somebody has put this much into it and they're this funny, there's got to be some subs, and they're giving this book away. Obviously, it's a funnel of some type. But I think these are really legit people, and just the concepts in the book just really hit, and make you rethink about marketing and sales and what that looks like in today's age, because there's still a lot of people running around doing it like they used to. And I'm about innovation and doing things differently, and so that's been a cool book to get into. That's my most recent read. So I know I broke the rules. I talked about 2 books.
No, that's okay. I'll check that out. I definitely have heard Traction before, and I think a lot of our listeners probably have too. But yeah, no, I'll check that other one out too. Sell Like Crazy. All right, next question. What would you consider your superpower is?
I really think it is making connections, both in the ideas of how businesses can operate. I think I've taken a lot of seemingly disparate ideas, right? How does a 24/7 self-service studio business also become a real estate business? It's not a new idea, right? McDonald's did it. We don't want to be the McDonald's of studios, but it's a similar idea, right? But how can that work? I think it's taking seemingly disparate ideas and putting them together, and also just connecting people. Making connections is something I do. I don't charge people for it. I don't. If I know somebody that could benefit from knowing somebody else, I want to introduce those people, because they'll make something great happen, and I'm in favor of that. I at a very high level, there's that. I also think that I'm good at providing some vision and some leadership, and really getting people excited about things that can change their lives. I like helping people, and I think business grows from that perspective, in service of people. rather than what can I get from you? How can I help you is the better way to approach it. And I think some of that just grew out of the time that I was able to serve in public education. I was there to serve as a public servant, and I just take that seriously, and I take it seriously in business as well. So yeah, I think
That's
that's it.
awesome. Very good. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career so far?
Ooh. um,
You probably touched a little bit on that already, I guess, with
yeah,
this
I
last one,
think
but
in business for me, it's everything's probably going to take twice as long and cost more than you thought it was when you first had the idea. And that's where you just shift into problem solving mode, and you might have to pivot. Um, my early ideas about what Grove Studios was, what looks very different than it did when I first had the idea. So um, it was really a single location idea, and it was a sort of a campus complex that was going to be inclusive of painters and ceramics people, and it was going to be this big location in southeast Michigan, and we pivoted, and it's become something different, something that I think has greater potential to scale, and and really we focused on audio, video, and music, music creatives, rather than incorporating a bunch of arts that we actually knew nothing about. I couldn't tell you what kind of kiln you should get for your pottery studio. I know nothing about that. And I don't like the insurance and liability challenges behind that kind of machinery. It's just not my world. So, being willing to pivot when new information comes to light, and understanding that it may take you longer than you thought it was going to take. And you're just going to have to be patient, because there's
no,
going to be.
actually, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that's so incredibly valuable. Even the way that you just delivered that, like in business, it's going to cost you twice what you think. It's going to take you longer than you think. But when you get to that point, you just problem solve and pivot. Like there's no, hey, my hair's on fire and everything's burning down. But it's actually kind of just boils down to that. And I love that. And I love even your, like I said, I love even your delivery of that, of hey, just calm and let's just carry on. This
Well, yeah, you
like what,
can't get,
like,
yeah, and you can't get too emotional about this
uh,
stuff.
right.
You really can't. I mean, for your own sanity and your work life balance and your mental health, you have to take the emotion out of it, and you have to just make decisions
No,
and do
I love it.
what makes
It's great.
sense.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
thank you. I
Well,
appreciate
well, for the busy working professional, working towards financial freedom, what advice do you have for them?
So I think you have to be careful not to make your business. I mean, if you want your business to be your only job, or that's the only thing you do, then that's great. If you're super passionate about something and you just want to work in the business all the time and do that, like depending on the type of business. Um, but you still have to work on your business, and not always in it. And I know lots of people have said that. But if you want to get to that point where you have the kind of freedom that you want, then you have to let go of some of the minutia, even if you're passionate about it. Like, look, I it's like a Zen-like experience for me to sit down and do some graphic design stuff, because I'm a creative, right? Like I just, I took a graphic design class back in college, and just something I've always tinkered with. I've made band posters, back when I was, doing more band stuff when I had more time and freedom and no kids and all of that. I enjoy it, but sometimes I have to let somebody else who's more likely better than me anyway do that work. I have to let go of some things. I have to know when to say no. I can't do that. I'm not going to spend time on that. And I have to spend most of my time on higher yielding activities. And some of those activities are not the most fun activities for me, but I'm the guy that has to do them. So I'm going to have to do those and do them well. I think that's been my biggest lesson. And still at the same time, I do make time when it matters most, right? I still need to appear on social media sometimes. I'm encouraged by our marketing agency to be the face of Grove Studios because of my creative background. And I've been reluctant at times, to get in front of that camera, but I think it's an important activity to do. So yeah, being selective and knowing when to say no.
I was going to say, you do it scared, right? Like that's fell
Right.
forward. Like that's
Yeah. If it does, yeah, I mean, anymore, it's sometimes like if it doesn't scare the heck out of you, then maybe you're not focusing on the right activities. You just got to jump in.
Right. Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. Oh, you mentioned it earlier, right? Just take action. Just get in there and sit up.
Right.
Um, well, how can I, you mentioned a little bit of it earlier, but what's kind of the best routes for the audience to reach out and get in touch with you? What's the social? Is it email
Yeah.
or website or?
Socials are great. I am Rick Coughlin on all socials. You could certainly email me. It depends on what you're looking to do, but reach out to me on socials. We could take a conversation from there. I'm always open to a conversation. If something's interesting that we're working on, happy to have the conversation. Grovestudios.space is the website for our studio business. 3squaredinc.com is the architecture company. And and we're out here doing big things. We're working on big things.
Love it. I love it. I love it. All right, Rick. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you hopping on with us. Opening up, ideally our vision for what's possible and kind of helping us to see some creative elements and just helping open the door to a little bit of what you guys have going on. So I really appreciate you. I've enjoyed our conversation today, and look forward to seeing the future progress and when the Coughlin Center is Cochran Center. Sorry, that's what they should name it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing.
Cochrane Commons. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but Cochrane, for those in Detroit will recognize, the Cochrane name. It's very tied to the history of the city and all of that. So, but yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Really, really nice to, finally meet you in person and talk about the stuff we're passionate about.
Right on. Awesome. Well, enjoy the day. Go out, take some action, and we'll follow up with you soon. All right.
All right, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. What a great show with Rick Coughlin. Rick's got such a creative mind, and you can tell, like, man, he's the steady hand on the creative ship for the different projects that they've got going on. So they've got working on a lot of creative stuff. They're in Michigan, where he's based. They're locally in Detroit. But if you guys are interested with that, investing with us, or you want to know about more we've got going on, go check out our site, tricityequity.com. If you're here locally in Hawaii and you want to get in touch with local like-minded investors, of course, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We have ongoing meetups every month. So, great way to be able to connect with other people that are like-minded or wanting to get better, wanting to do more. Of course, if we'd love a review. If you found any value in the podcast and any of these interviews that we do with all these awesome investors and different creative minds that we have on the show, we'd love a review. That really helps us to promote the podcast and kind of get the message out that people can do more beyond what their normal, maybe day job is, or even what they think is possible. Like, Rick got to share a little bit earlier that, hey, you know what, he's taken his experience that he's gotten in different career paths that he's taken to let him up to his current point in investing and design and developing and, being able to incorporate it now into larger projects and involve other people So, if you want to hear more messages like that, of course, like we want to be able to promote that. So make sure that you're leaving us a review, make sure that you share the podcast and the show. And if you found anybody that might resonate with the message. And then we also have our conference coming up. This might be one of our last episodes here before that actually happens. That's on June 29th through July 1st. That's the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference, the Blueprint. That's over in Waimea. Again, it's on the Big Island. There's still tickets available. I know the rooms were getting really low. But if you guys want to go out and learn more, be able to connect with like-minded investors there, how to operate businesses and franchises and get involved in real estate, if that's something you want to incorporate into your life, you want to level up, you get this awesome chance to meet and some other entrepreneurs, investors, and people who are doing kind of big things. Make sure that you make plans to be there. With that's going to be some of the best, brightest people in the industry that will be at the conference. So awesome turnout last year. I know this year is going to be even better. So make sure that you guys are checking that out. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Go out, take some action, put those creative juices to work, and find ways to solve some problems, bring some value. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Aloha.